to say hello for Prof. Madya Dr. Haji Abdul Aziz from Fatani University. Okay, and Honorable the Director of Pasca Sarjana, Prof. Edi, and then Honorable the Head of Study Program of Islamic Education Management of Universitas Jepara, Pak Dr. Sukarman. And of course, I would like to welcome all of the audience, especially for the students of Fatani University and the students of Pasca Sarjana Universitas Jepara. Okay, this session I would like to present the topic that given to me. The topic is about psychology of leadership, psychology of education leadership. And you know that when we are talking about leadership, and then we have to deal with human being. So every human being had the psychis, and then that's why that we need psychology to manage the leadership that given to us. So that's why that I think this topic will be interesting when we are talking about leadership. We are also talk about psychology. Okay, what is the psychology? We get some definition of psychology. One is from the American Psychological Association, which say that psychology is scientific study of the mind and behavior. As I said before, that when we are talking about psychology, and then we have the business of mind and behavior. And mind and behavior is only belong by the human being. So the animal have no mind and behavior. So we are talking about psychology means we are going to close relation with the human being. And then the second definition is that psychology is science that not only studies design of the soul, but also studies experiences that are felt and visualized. And you know that sometimes our fortune sometimes up and sometimes down. And this talking about how the psychology take place at that situation. And then the third is psychology, is science that says the nature of the soul. Yeah, the nature of the soul from the process of the beginning up to the end. Yeah, I think in our Muslim faith, we believe that from the beginning of the infant, from the beginning of the baby, maybe some mothers, will know about how to communicate and how to educate the baby when they are in pregnancy. And then, so when we are educated, it is our duty in Islamic perspective that we have to educate our baby from the pregnancy up to the end of the life. And it will be studied by the psychology. And then fourth, psychology science studies individual activities from the womb until the end of the person. So I think it's like the definition before, that psychology deal with the life from the beginning up to the end of the life. And then the last definition, that psychology is multifaceted discipline and include many subfields of studies such areas of human development, sport, health, clinical, social behavior, and cognitive processes. So these are the subtopics that are related with the psychology. Human development. Maybe teachers will be familiar with this situation when they are teaching, and then you have to pay attention to the psychological, to the children psychological, student psychology. Means that when we are teaching of the kindergarten, and then what kinds of the characters of the kindergarten student when we are teaching in SLTA student, and what kind of the characteristic of the student in SLTA. So human development will be very, very important to study because it relates with the development of the cognitive processes. And then field of the psychology. The broad areas of the psychology consist of first, cognitive psychology, a field that deals with the way human being processes, combine, and organize information in the mind help to solve the problem, memorize, understand, interpret, and create information. Yeah, cognitive psychology. So it is the way how the student get knowledge. Yeah, the process how the student get knowledge, the process how the people get knowledge. Yeah, combine the recognition information in the mind that we have to solve the problem. So as you know that we have kinds of the semantic, what is it? Semantic map of our brain. And then psychodynamic studies the cause of behavior within the workings of personality. In a psychological approach, emphasizing unconscious forces and early childhood experience in shaping behavior, personality, and mental health. As you know that every human being have an experience uh, from the very young up to the old age. And it is what we call, it can be the sad experience, it can be happy experience. And the experience will shape behavior of the personality. So it is very often that the personality of the student have the background of the experience that they have during the childhood. And this is the business that psychology also studies. Humanistic psychology emphasize on free will, freedom, and choice, innate tendencies toward growth, the role of internal personality, processes, the importance of conscious motives. So, humanistic psychology, as you know, that every human being have a freedom and choice. Yeah, and you know that, and we know that talking about the role of internal personality processes, it is very important to make the influence of the whole life of the human being. And then number 4 is behaviorism. The psychology of behaviorism focuses on the role of external environment in when people action object in shaping the governing human action. So in our discussion on psychodynamic, we have an internal experience, and then behaviorism is focuses on the external environment. As you know that our life always influenced by the external environment. So that is why that in our education theory, we have familiar with the 3 theories. We call it by empirism and then nativism and convergence theory. And you know that if the student, in order student to develop the cognitive, and then it will be influenced by the two environment, internal environment and then external environment. Okay, and then what about the subfield of psychology? There are subfield of psychology. What we call it first is development psychology. Development psychology talking about how growth and change across the lifespan. So as I said before that in every stages of the human life, there are some kinds of stages that in every stages there is characteristic that very unique, unique characteristic in every stage. So what have we pay attention to the children is that, for example, in the child of the year of 2 years, what is the way how we have to learn with them, and then what kinds of and how we treat the student in this age, and what about the child in the age of 6, the child in the age of 12, etc. We call it by development psychology. And then the second field of the psychology is cognitive psychology. Cognitive psychology examines mental processes like thinking, memory, and decision making. So cognitive dealing with the way how we think, the way how human being thinking. So just like I said before that in every stages of the age of the people, there are something very unique in every stage of the human being. And then behavioral psychology focuses on how behavior influenced by environment, stimuli, and learning. As I said before, that education theories, there are three education theories that we are very familiar as a teacher: nativism, and then empirism, and convergence. And what we have to know is about the convergent. Convergent is the combination between the potential, self potential, and then the influence of the environment outside of the human being. And then the next is social psychology. Social psychology investigates how people think, feel, and behave in social situation. In social situation. So if we know about behavioral psychology, and then cognitive psychology, and then social psychology. Social psychology is talking about how the human being in the social situation, how they behave in social situation, how they have an attitude in social interaction, for example. And then industrial organization psychology. Why industry need psychology? Because you know that in industrial there are some people who are working there, who are being the manager, who are being the worker there. So in industry there are human beings. So every field of human being, then there is needed by the psychology. So, for example, the manager want to know about the psychology of the workers, the staff, for example, why the staff is in low motivation, how to increase their low motivation, and then the manager need the psychology, need the information about what kinds of the thing behind the workers so that they have a low motivation. Yeah, it is very important for the manager, for the leader, for example, for the leader to know about the psychological situation, the psychological state of every worker, so that the leader will be able to make what is it, the certain attitude, the certain how to manage the worker based on the situation that they have. Of course, in every workers have certain characteristic that not behaved by the other workers. And then educational psychology. I think it is our business as a teacher. Focus how people learn and the factors that influence their learning. So if we are talking about how the people learn, and then there are some kinds of the strategy, some kinds of technique to make the student active in learning, and of course there are some factors that influence their learning. It can be internal factor, it can be external factor. Internal factor is about the motivation, about the intelligence owned by the student, and then the internal and external factor like the way how the teacher, the method used by the teacher to teach, and then the strategy used by the teacher to teach, etc. So when we are talking about the way how people learn, and then we also have to know about what kinds of the factors influence the learning. And then the next is counseling psychology. Provide support and guidance to individual experience emotional and personal challenges. Counseling psychology, dealing with the teacher in our school. In our school, every school have one of the staff dealing with the PPPK, bimbingan and counseling. And what kinds of the business that have to be done by the PPPK is to help students to know the solution about the problem that they have, the problem that they face. Because you know that every personal have challenges in the learning processes. And then it is our duty as a teacher to help the student to look for the alternative solution, And then the last is environmental psychology, study the relationship between people and the environment. It is okay. As human being, we have not be able to out of the environment, and how we behave to our environment is very important to learn, so that we will get the advantages of the environment around us. Okay, now we go to the next topic about the leadership. What kind of the leadership? The presenters before have discussed about the leadership from Prof. Madya Haji Abdul Aziz. We know about the leadership, and then also from Pak Sukarman. Okay, talk about the leadership. And it is very interesting for Pak Sukarman because he have talked about something that Indonesian technical term by using what we call it by nasab, sub, and nasib. And what is our leadership? Leadership is a set of mindset of behavior that align people in collective direction, enable them to work together and accomplish shared goal, and help them adjust to changing environment. So the core of the leadership is that how someone as a leader enable to work together and accomplish shared goal. It is the core of the leadership. And you know that when directing people, maybe ask them to go together, and then we need some kinds of the understanding about what kinds of the psychological situation of every people in the organization. And then two, leadership is the process of directing and influencing the work-related activities of group members. So we have here the most important task for leadership is direct and influence. And direct and influence. Again, that when we are going to direct effectively, and then we have to know what kinds of the psychological situation of the workers, of our staff in our organization. So I think directing is something that very difficult. Yes, directing is something very difficult to do because you know that we are with the human being, and they have to think, and they have a special characteristic that we have to know in every characteristic of the human being in our group. This definition contains three important implications. So when we are talking about leadership, and then we have to pay attention about the implication. Leadership involve other people. As I said before, that when we are talking about leadership, and then we are dealing with some people in our organization. When we are concentrating or focus in our education, and then we are going to involve with other people. It can be students, it can be the teachers, it can be the staff, etc. So there is the implication of the leadership. And then two is leadership involve balanced distribution of power between leader and group members. Yes, it is I think it is good leadership when we can make a balanced distribution of our assignment between the leader and group members, in order that leader look very powerful, and then members look powerless. So this way that we have to make a balance between the leader and group members. And then three is the ability to use different form of power to influence the behavior of followers in various ways. As you know that every leader have a power, and the way how to use our power to influence the behavior of followers. And then we have to know some theories about leadership. Because you know that the way how we influence, the way how we direct the people in our organization is not quite easy. It's not quite easy. So we have to pay attention about psychological aspect in order to know the psychological situation of every people around in our organization. Okay, then uh, go to the next chapter. Go to the next subsection is about the leadership theories. You know that when we are going to have direct people, when we have to influence the people, and then we have to know some kinds of the style, some kind of the strategy, how we can direct effectively, how we can influence effectively for our group in our organization, education organization, for example, how we have the theories that effective way how to direct the teachers, how to direct the student to do something, for example, so that they have successful in the study, for example, and then they have to do every rule, every regulation done given by the school. The first is the great man. There is a theory which say that every leader are born. Yeah, leaders are born. So it means that from the beginning, from the childhood, this kinds of person showed special attitude, special behavior as a leader. So we say it by the leaders are born. The leader is born. The leaders are born. They are not made. So from the very young, these people show the characteristic as a leader. So, for example, then when they are not given special training, for example, they have a potential to be a leader. This is what got by the great man. I don't know whether in our surrounding we can get this kinds of leader or not. Yeah, maybe just only the Prophet Muhammad who has born to be the leader. Yeah, has born to be the leader, because our Prophet Muhammad has prepared by Allah before being adulthood, and then from the beginning Allah prepared to be the leader. Yeah, so Prophet Muhammad born to be Prophet Muhammad was born to be a leader. And then number two, trait theory. The trait leadership theory believes that people are either born or are made. So maybe if we are going to relate with the theory of education, and then the great man theory is maybe it kinds of the nativism, yeah, of the nativism. So there is no environment, no external environment, but the people, human being, to be the leader. And then trait theory is kind of the convergence. So not only he has the potential to be a leader, but also he have to be trained with some kinds of the qualities, so that he can develop their intelligence, their sense of responsibility, they develop the creativity and other values. So both are very important in this theory. The potential which are given, and then how we treat the potential, how we develop the potential owned by the human being. Third, behavior theory. Behavioral theories leadership are based on the belief that great leaders are made, not born. So it is the opposite of the great man theory. So if great man theory, that the leader is born, and then behavior theory, the leader is not born but is made. So every human being is possible to be treated to be a leader. So it is the role of external influence to to influence someone to be the leader. So in our education theory, and then we call it by empirism. Yeah, empirism. So one can be developed because it would given it was influenced by the external environment. This leadership theory focuses on the leader's action, not on their mental qualities or internal state. According to this theory, people can learn to become leaders through teaching and observation. So he himself can make him to be the leader if he studying hard, he learning hard to learn everything dealing with how to be a good leader. So he himself can make himself to be the leader. It depends on the how hard they learn to become a leader, how hard he study to be the leader. Yeah, it can be by self-learning, or maybe it go to some kinds of the training center, and then of course he also observe what kinds of the people around him to get the model, which one is the model of the leader that he want to what is it to be the model of him when he the future to be the leader. So behavioral theory is how the people make himself to be the leader by preparing himself by learning, by studying hard, by observation, etc. And then 4 is contingency theory. Contingency theory, in some book, we call it by situational theory. Contingency leadership theory argues that there is no single way of leading, that every leadership style should be based on certain situation. So it is the model, I think, that work in our daily leadership. So good leader, maybe a wise leader, should know about what kind of the situation around the organization, so that he can choose what kind of the style, what kind of the model that they use in order to leader to be the leader in this organization. So because you know that every situation needs certain style, certain situation needs certain style. So it can be sometimes we can use the style of democratic, and sometimes we can use the authoritative, etc. So it depends on the situation that how the leader should do the task to lead the people. So we call it by situational theory. So the situational theory is the leadership what is it, leadership assignment, leadership task that should be done by the leader based on the situation. And then number 5 is transformational relationship theory. Transformational leadership theory describes leadership style that focuses on inspiring and motivating followers to achieve service and excel beyond their self-interest. Transformational theory pay attention more to how the leader can make a good relationship, how the leader can make a positive relationship with the people under the leadership. So the way how they communicate, and then it will be kinds of the capital to success of the leadership. So in this way, that communication will be very significant to do by the leader in order to influence, in order to direct the followers to get burdens, to get the sense of us, the sense of us. As you know that if there is a kind of sense of us in every people in our organization, and then I think it will be a good situation that can be the capital, can be the model to get the goal, to get the objective of the organization. And then transactional, or we can say management theory. Management style focus on system, reward, and punishment. Transactional, yes, as I think it is very familiar in our situation. Yeah, if the people do good thing, and then we give reward, and the people do wrong thing, and then we will punishment. So it is what we call by transactional management theory. So in this case, it's just the leader use the approach by reward and punishment in order to increase the motivation to work, and then the leader should have reward, and in order to make the worker who are not in good working working quality, and then the leader give punishment. It is what we call it transactional. And now we go to the Islamic perspective of the leadership. What I just present is that the concept of leadership in the general in the general issues. And now we go to the Islamic perspective of the leadership. Prof. Madhya Haji Abdul Aziz have talked more about the Islamic perspective of the leadership. So maybe I just add for a certain point from Abdul Aziz. Maybe Abdul Aziz has talked completely about the Islamic perspective of leadership. Leadership is fundamental aspect of human society, transcending cultural and religious boundaries. So it is the specific characteristic that leadership is dealing with religious boundaries. So in doing the leadership business, and then the leader must not go out of the religious boundaries. Transcending cultural. And then in Islam, leadership is not privileged reserved for select view. This inclusive perspective on leadership intimately rooted in the teaching of Islam. So when doing the task of the leadership, the leaders should always pay attention, should always base the activity based on the teaching of Islam. Additionally, the tradition of Prophet Muhammad serve as guiding light, exemplifying leadership characterized by humility, integrity, and strong commitment to justice. It is the tributes of the Prophet Muhammad in doing the leadership, and then the leader should have kinds of the humility, integrity, and then strong commitment to justice. It is the way of the Prophet Muhammad too when he was leading the ummah. So the humility, and then the integrity and strong commitment to justice. So we know that how strong of our Prophet about the justice is that, for example, when he said that if Fatimah still, and then I will cut her hand. Yeah, it showed that how the Prophet have strong commitment to the justice. Although who has the guilty is his beloved daughter, but if she made a mistake, and then the Prophet will punish her. And then Islamic leadership emphasizes qualities such as character, sincerity, and selflessness. So I would like to underline about the sincerity. Yeah, sincerity. Sincerity is everything done is only for on the sake of Allah. Yeah, not for other people, not for something for someone else, but it is just only for Allah's sake. So it is called by sincerity. So it should be the basic of the leader when he do the leadership, have the sincerity. And then Islamic leadership not only provides solid ethical foundation for decision making, but also fosters sense of belonging and empowerment within communities. Sense of belonging. Sense of belonging, yeah, it is something that now very difficult to get among us. Yeah, sometimes that although they are in this sport or in this institution, sense of belonging is very low. Yeah, sense of belonging. The way the attitude that he feel that the institution is also my institution, so that I have a responsible to develop. I have a responsible to make the institution to be better qualities, etc. It is sense of belonging. So the responsibility of the quality of the institution is not only the business or the assignment of the leader, but it's also for all the followers, also for all the staff in this institution. So it is the teaching of Islam that every people in the organization should have a sense of belonging, empowerment with communities. And then the last is in navigating challenges and ethical dilemmas, leader can turn to Islamic teaching for guidance. So if you have difficulties in doing leadership, and then you have to go to the Islamic teaching, how to consult to the what is it, uh, the ulama, the kiai, to have to ask the guidance about how we solve the problem. So it is one of the characteristics of the Islamic leadership. Then every have the problem, and then they back to Allah. They back to the teaching of Islam, ensuring that the action begin with a moral compass. And then it is the focus of our discussion here is about what kinds of the role of the psychology in our leadership. So we just try to connect, to relate the psychology and leadership. As in the early our presentation, I said that because leadership is dealing with the human being, and then we need psychology. Because psychology will give us the understanding about the human being. So that's why the relation between psychology and leadership is very important and very significant. Leadership psychology, specialized branch of psychology, focus on understanding how various psychological factors influence the leadership behavior and the impact this behavior have on team and organization. Yeah, psychological factor, for example, motivation. Yeah, motivation, and then situation of the mental of the staff, and then the patience, and then the attitude, psychological factor. And then at the score, this examine the personality traits, cognitive processes, emotional intelligence, and social dynamic that characteristic effective leader. So it is. So these are the psychological factors influence leadership. Personality traits. So if we know, if we have good understanding of psychology, and then we will be able to understand about the personality trait. The cognitive processes, as you know that in every human being, yeah, for example, in the school environment, and then it is very important of every teacher to have understanding of psychology, and then we will know what how many students are in low what is it, kemampuan berpikir, ya, low cognitive competence, yeah, and which one is have high competence and which one is in the average competence. So and then if we have the data about it is the low competent, that it is the middle competent, that is the high competent, and then the teacher can make a kinds of the treatment for every group. So for the low competence, and then we have to do explaining more what is it, more times than average competence, and then the high competence maybe we just give kinds of the assignment and then they do, and they can do the work because they have a high competence. So it is dealing with the cognitive processes. Now we go to the significance of leadership psychology. The significance of leadership psychology is professional development is profound, it's very significant. So it is said that leadership, the role of psychology in leadership is very significant. It is not just about leading people, but doing so in that maximize positive outcome. Yeah, it is not just about leading people, but doing so in a way that maximize positive outcome. So as I said before, that the leader, every leader have to have kinds of the certain style to direct certain people. Yeah. Just not only leading, but how we do our leading, both leader and the follower. Through understanding psychological constructs as motivation, perception, and values, leaders can enhance the ability to inspire trust, foster teamwork, and navigate the complexities of organizational change. So if the leader have good understanding in psychology, and then they can easily construct the motivation, because you know that the background of the situation of the staff, and then the leader will get the way how to motivate, because you know that we have some kinds of motivation that we can give. For example, if we know that the staff need some kinds of the financial support, and then the leader have to try to give the financial to support the motivation to work. But if they have kinds of the low motivation because of the intention, because of the what is it, the ideal, and then we have to make how the staff will be more what is it, more have a more spirit to do the work. And values, leader can enhance the ability to inspire trust, yeah, and navigate the complexities of organization change. So again, that I would like to state here that psychological in leadership is very, understanding of psychology is very important for the leader in order to enhance the ability to inspire the trust. And then the next, leadership psychology equips leader with the tool to analyze and adapt their approach to different situations. As we know before that there are some stories about the leader. So if the leader have a psychology understanding, and then they can choose the theory, which the suitable theories that will use to be a leader, thereby improving the effectiveness and the overall performance of their team. So sometimes that the leader is not effective to do the leadership because they do not know what the suitable way, what the suitable theory to lead the organization. So it is not because they do not know much about the leadership, but they do not know the way, the effective way, how to lead the staff. Okay, now studying leadership style and the psychological underpinning, leaders can adapt their approach to be more transformative or situational, as I said before. And then psychology teaches emotional intelligence, valuable asset in leadership. By strengthening their emotional intelligence, leaders can better understand and manage their own emotion as well as empathies with their team members, enabling more effective communication and relation building. So we have now some updating cases, yeah, about the situation in Jakarta, yeah, because our parliament have not empathy of the people now. how we have difficulties in living, but our parliament said that the people is tolerant, etc. So they do not have the empathy. So by understanding psychology, and then the leader will have kinds of the empathy to know and to how to do with our staff. If we have the empathy, and then we will not leave the staff themselves, but we always gathering with them. We have to be with them in every situation. Psychological knowledge also facilitates personal growth and resilience. Though the study of psychological resilience, coping mechanism, and stress management, leaders can foster a healthy mindset, which is essential for enduring the various challenges that leadership entails. So again, that by having psychological knowledge, we can facilitate personal growth, especially when if we are a teacher, and then it is very important for us to know about the growth and resilience of the student. So if we have kind of the certain approach to do with the student with low competence, and then I think it will be very successful in teaching. Yeah, because we know that what kinds of the student that we have to what kinds of the theory that we have to use to approach the student. So if we understand about the situation of the student face, and then we can use the good the suitable approach for our student, and it needs psychological understanding. Okay, and then we go to keywords of leadership psychology. One of the keyword premise of leadership psychology is that leader need build sense of us. As I said before, that we have as a leader, we have always tried to be together. So we are leader, and the other side are the staff. So how we come together? Because the successful of the organization, yeah, based on the how we come to be together, the leader and the staff. So we call it by sense of us. Today's organization face frequent change and high degree interconnectedness between system driven by information technology. The three premise that we know now, that there is an interconnectedness between system. So what happened in Gaza, and then we know from the internet, we know about the situation in Gaza, and students know what kinds of happening in Jakarta, and what kinds of happening in Israel, for example, what happening in other and over the world. So that's why that we have to understand well about the leadership psychology. Second, leadership psychology recognizes the importance of organization members and does not assume the leader are demigods. Demigod and advance the great man theory. Yeah, leadership psychology recognizes the importance of organizational members and does not assume that leaders are demigod. Demigod is kind of the what is it in bahasa Indonesia, we call it by that pimpinan is segala-galanya. Yeah, the great man theory. So yeah, it will then that will kind of the space between the leader and the staff. Yeah, demigods. Third, leadership assumes that organization members are empowered and can be empowered. The focus of leadership psychology theory is not the leader, but on both leader and organization members. Leader member centric. So not leader member centric, but now we go to what is it? Not leader centric, but we go to leader member centricity. So it is the equal position between the leader and the member. So not only is if in our strategy in teaching, in learning, we kept a kind of teacher centrist and then learning centrist, and then in our personalized and our leadership, we have the term of leader member centricity. So becoming interesting, relevant with the rise of younger generation. Therefore, leaders must foster a sense of us with their organization members. This is one of the important of leadership psychology, sense of us. So, as a leader, we have to feel that we do not have special position, but we just have equal position between the leader and the staff. All of us have responsibility how to make the successful of our organization. Not only the leader who have the responsibility to make successful of the institution, not only the staff who has the responsibility to be successful of the institution, but all of the side, both the leader and the staff have a responsibility to successful of the organization. So it is very stand of us. Why we have to have a kind of the sense of us. As you know that in world society challenges today, we have what we call it by BNI. BNI called stand for brittle, anxious, non-linear, and dilation of knowledge. Brittle means the world is vulnerable or not as strong as previous thought. Not as strong as previous thought. So yeah, I think we all have understand about this situation. Vulnerable or not as strong as previous thought. And then anxious refer to the fact that what we previously thought was controllable and manageable actually it turns out to be so. In bahasa Indonesia we said kita sering menemukan sebuah situasi yang menurut prediksi kita itu bisa kita atur, bisa kita kendalikan, tapi nyatanya itu tidak bisa. Kita sudah membuat program, banyak program yang mengarah ke sini, ke sana, kemari dalam rangka mencapai tujuan, tetapi di tengah perjalanan itu ada gangguan yang sama sekali tidak kita antisipasi. Itu yang disebut dengan anxious. Nah, kalau itu tidak kita miliki sense of us, and then we have not be able to solve the challenges. And the next, non-linearity refers to the understanding that so many factors influence in that it's very difficult to predict. I think all of us, or maybe most of us, know that there are some kinds of the unpredictable situation. Ya, banyak hal yang kita prediksi tapi terjadi. Ya, itu situasi sekarang ini. Ya, banyak yang tidak kita prediksi tapi kemudian terjadi. Banyak yang kita prediksi tapi ternyata tidak terjadi. Nah, non-linearity. Kemudian the last is elation of knowledge in the recognition that what is known today is far from perfect. Nah, ada elation of knowledge. Jadi pengetahuan yang kita miliki sekarang ini itu bukan yang terbaru, bukan yang mampu mengatasi segala-galanya. Karena setiap kali ada perkembangan. Every stage of era, then there is stage of the development of the knowledge and the science. So what we have to do is that we always learn and learn. We always do the study and study so that we can face every step of our challenges about the world. So in this case, that because of the Benny situation, the Benny challenges, it is the significant of sense of us among the organization. Benny concept reminds us that first challenges all component of organization today role. Leader centric need to be replaced by leader member centricity. As I said that now we have to change our leadership from leader centric to leader member centricity. It is the situation of the how to imply the sense of us in our organization. Leader member centric refers to leadership perspective, often called by leader member exchange theory, where the focus is on the quality of relationship between the leader and each individual follower. Leader member centric. It is the characteristic of the theory of leader member centric that quality of relationship between leader and each individual is very significant. Unlike the centric model that emphasizes the leader directive, LMS theory highlight the unique dyadic exchange of trust, respect, and support that develop between leader and subordinate, influencing their perspective, work, and attitude of the performance. Okay, and then we have a closing statement of the role of psychology in leadership. I don't know how much time that give to me, but as actually there are some other issues that I want to present, but uh, we have still time or not. Now we are in 11:40. Pak Kaprodi, maybe remind me if we have not to stop now. We have to stop now. Oh, we have the time to go to the next issue that I am preparing. Okay, maybe for 5 minutes to go, yeah, for 5 minutes to go. The concept for leadership in Islam, I will not discuss anymore because the presenter before have discussed about the concept of leadership in Islam. But just a little, I would like to present the concept of Islamic leadership summarized from Muqaddimah in by Ibnu Khaldun. The first, that leadership is identical to the term of caliph or khalifa in our terms, which means that representative beside the caliph is also called uli amri. So there are two terms that used in Islamic leadership, khalifa and ul amri, which means that the highest leader is Islamic society. Leadership is not power; it is not position, authority to be proud of. It is very important that leadership is not the power, it is not the position, the authority to be proud of. Jadi posisi yang tidak perlu kita banggakan. Ya, di dalam perspektif Islam, bahwa pimpinan itu adalah amanah, bukan sesuatu yang bukan privilege, bukan sesuatu yang harus kita banggakan. Leadership is not commodity that can be traded. Ya. Jadi kepemimpinan tidak komoditas yang bisa kita jual belikan. Ya, lalu kalau kamu bisa store sekian, kamu akan saya angkat jadi pimpinan misalnya. Nah, itu tidak seperti itu. Leadership in the view of Islam is a mandate, ya, amanah that must be carried out properly and accounted for in His world and before Allah in the hereafter. Nah, ini yang penting. Ya, jadi urusan kepemimpinan itu not only the world life here, but it is also for the hereafter. Ya, urusan kepemimpinan tidak kita pertanggungjawab di dunia sekarang, tapi juga sampai di hari akhir. A leader should be knowledgeable about Islamic teaching and have wisdom in applying them. Honesty, trustworthiness, and fundamental trait for leader. Nah, tentu yang namanya pimpinan Islam harus memahami tentang Islamic teaching. Ya, jangan sampai di situ kepala madrasah, for example, but do not know about the Islamic teaching. Kepala madrasah. Nah, beda dengan kepala sekolah. Nah, kalau kepala madrasah tends to be Islamic perspective. And a wisdom and applying. Nah, butuh wisdom, butuh kebijakan. Honesty, kejujuran, and trustworthiness bisa dipercaya. Trait for a leader. Nah, ini menjadi sikap yang fundamental bagi seorang pimpinan, memiliki honesty and trustworthiness. Islamic leaders remind that they will be held accountable before Allah. Jangan lupa bahwa semua yang dilakukan oleh pimpinan harus dipertanggungjawabkan di hadapan Allah. Islamic leaders are encouraged continually seek knowledge. Nah, jangan lupa bahwa Islamic leaders juga dituntut untuk continually seek knowledge minal mahdi ilal lahdi. Nah, jangan sampai hadis itu hanya dibaca tetapi tidak kita lakukan itu. Jadi I am proud of the student in MPI that although they are very busy, although they are in old age, but they have spirit to continue their studying. And then in Islam, leadership encompasses the process of inspiring, training, volunteer to achieve a vibrant collective vision. Nah, volunteers itu sukarela. Ya, yang ditanamkan, yang diinspirasikan dalam bagian menjadi sukarela, melakukan sesuatu tanpa paksaan, tapi sincerity, full of sincerity, penuh dengan keikhlasan. Oke, ya ini tadi sudah disinggung, ya, kurang lebih sama, ya, kurang lebih sama dengan yang sudah disampaikan sebelumnya. Nah, ini juga konsep yang tentang nilai-nilai yang dikembangkan di dalam kepemimpinan Islam. Pertama, bahwa harus ada tauhid. Ya, pimpinan harus apa-apa tidak boleh lepas dari iman kepada Allah, iman apa namanya the oneness of God, ya, tauhid, the oneness of God. And then albir means virtue on being good. Including Islamic leadership is the good intention to bring as much goodness and possible to the life of others. Jadi semata harus selalu diniati untuk kebaikan. Ya, albir. And then amanah, nadrah means visionary. Ya, pimpinan harus memiliki visi. Pimpinan harus visioner, selalu menatap ke depan. Ya, tidak boleh stagnan dalam kondisi yang aman, tapi harus selalu visioner. And then adil, ya, and then itqan. Itqan can be defined as total professional. Ya, pemimpin menurut perspektif Islam harus yang profesional. Dia menguasai apa yang menjadi bidang tugasnya. Sebagai guru, dia menguasai bidang tugas sebagai guru. Sebagai kepala madrasah, dia menguasai bidangnya sebagai kepala madrasah. Itqan. And then mujahadah can be interpreted as earnest attitude of striving and struggle. Seorang pimpinan harus selalu punya daya juang yang kuat. Daya juang yang kuat. Leader needs to show his totality in carrying out this duty as leader. Nah, ini saya garis bawahi, totality. Jadi kalau kita sudah ditunjuk, diberi amanat menjadi kepala madrasah, harus total. Ya, nggak boleh disambi. Nah, nggak boleh disambi. Totality in carrying out these duties as a leader. Nah, ini menjadi penting untuk saya garis bawahi. A leader needs to show his totality in carrying out his duty as a leader. And then shura, is mechanism for making decision. Jangan lupa seorang pemimpin harus selalu mengedepankan konsensus, akad, musyawarah. And then ukhuwah, brotherhood. Nah, tadi di depan bahwa self of us, rasa kekitaan, rasa kebersamaan. Nah, itu juga dimiliki oleh seorang pimpinan dalam perspektif Islam. Ya, ini yang terakhir, Islamic Educational Goal. Saya ambil dari juga mau partinya dua hal. Yang pertama, question of noble character. Nah, karena kita bicara, because we are discussing about the educational leadership, and then we have to know, to understand about what kind of the goal in Islamic education. First, formation of noble character. Now, I think we all know about the aim of national education. One of them is noble character. Ya, memiliki akhlak yang mulia. Tadi juga disinggung di depan. Ya, noble character. And then enhancement of quality life. Tujuan pendidikan adalah untuk meningkatkan kualitas hidup. Nah, untuk meningkatkan kualitas hidup, maka seseorang harus memiliki pendidikan. Tanpa pendidikan, as if he has his room with windowless room. In a situation of dark, windowless room. Nah, Bapak mengatakan bahwa kalau orang itu tidak punya pendidikan, dia seperti berada di ruangan yang gelap tanpa jendela. Nah, jadi ya sudah di ruang gelap tapi tanpa jendela, windowless room. Understanding and practicing teaching. Nah, karena itu tujuan pendidikan Islam, maka tidak lupa bahwa dia harus memahami dan mempraktekkan teaching of Islam. It is the task of our teacher not only teaching about Islam, but how to be Muslim. Ini jangan lupa, saya ingatkan. As an Islamic teacher, we have to know that our core business is that how to make good Muslim, not only teaching about Islam. Jadi kita tidak hanya mengajarkan tentang Islam, tapi kita harus menjadikan bagaimana menjadi Muslim yang baik. Kalau mengajarkan is teaching about Islam, it's very easy. As explain how many pillar of Islam, how many pillar of iman, and then how many pillar of salat, etc. It is very easy. After the teacher teach, and then all of the student can understand well, can memorize all the pillar. But how to be good Muslim? If we give the explanation that sholatul jamaah dulu min sholatul fardi, bahwa sholat jamaah lebih penting, lebih mulia daripada sholat sendirian, ya maka tugas kita adalah bagaimana ketika dengar adzan lalu anak-anak itu very quickly to go to mosque, very quickly to go to musalla in order to prayer gathering. Ya, jadi itu yang penting. Tidak hanya mengajarkan bagaimana berapa budgetnya orang yang sholat berjamaah 27 Pak, 27 Bu, dan selesai. Itu nilainya menjadi nilainya 9 pas 10. Tapi how when the student hear the adhan, how what kinds of the behavior to do the gathering prayer. Nah, itu yang perlu kita tanamkan. So we have not only to teach about Islam, but how to be good Muslim. The next, intellectual and skill development. Ya, tujuan pendidikan adalah mengembangkan keterampilan dan intelektual, pengetahuan. Nah, yang sering kita pakai, ya, imamnya kita sampai sekarang itu adalah Bloom-Wilden Theory. Ya, jadi ada aspek kognitif, ada aspek afektif, aspek psikomotorik. Nah, itu juga relevan dengan yang disampaikan Ibnu Khalid. Formation of just and responsible leaders. Ya, bagaimana kita menyiapkan anak-anak kita itu menjadi responsible leader, menjadi just leader, pemimpin yang adil, pemimpin yang bertanggung jawab. Nah, itu tujuan pendidikan Islam. Formation of community awareness and social solidarity. Membentuk anak-anak didik kita itu menjadi menjadi orang yang peduli terhadap masyarakat, community awareness and social solidarity, memiliki solidaritas sosial. Nah, ini penting untuk disampaikan karena sekarang ini banyak yang muncul kepada sikap individualistis, jauh dari social solidarity and community awareness. So I think that's all of my presentation today. Thank you for the chance given to me. Thank you Pak Kaprodi, thank you Prof. Jubaidi, and thank you Prof. Aziz who have given me to share our ideal about psychology of Islamic education. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for Bapak Dr. Haji Mahali
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
For today. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, all of the honorable audiences, today we're gonna start to open the Q&A session. Please write down your question in the chat room. It's okay, or you give us raise hand. Give us react by raise your hand. It's okay. Maybe we have 3 questions. Okay, give us reaction.
Yeah, Mr. Roni.
Maybe. Oh, Pak Roni.
Yeah.
Okay, the first one we have Pak Asfaroni from Unisnu Jepara. Okay, disilakan Pak Roni. It's okay for the first speaker, Prof. Madya Dr. Haji Abdul Aziz. Or the second one is by me, Dr. Sukarman from Unisnu Jepara, and the third one is from Dr. Haji Mahali, MBD from Unisnu Jepara. Okay, Pak Roni, time is yours.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
My Honorable Prof. Zubaidi, Prof. Abdul Aziz, Dr. Mahali, and Dr. Sukarman, and all the participants. I starting my question from the third speaker into the first speaker. The first one for Mr. Mahali. How does the integration of psychological theory about leadership that you have explained able to influence leadership style in Islamic education institution? Are there special approaches that effective in addressing contemporary educational challenges? And then for Mr. Sukarman,
The second one special for me. Okay, Pak Roni, go ahead.
Okay. How does the emphasis on candidate of Nasab? I think your topic is so
Okay.
tricky and smart.
Okay, local wisdom
Good
ya.
job, Mr. Karman. How does the emphasis on candidates of Nasab or background or family background that it has conflict with the modern principle of meritocracy and equal opportunity. Padahal kita juga tahu bahwa hal-hal seperti itulah di mana seringkali mengutamakan nasab, justru itulah yang akan menjadi penghambat kemajuan institusi itu sendiri. The last one for Mr. Abdul Aziz. Are you ready, Mr. Abdul Aziz? Where are you, Mr. Abdul Aziz?
Okay, to stay in on screen.
Boleh,
Okay.
boleh Pak Roni.
Oke,
Pak
oke.
Roni.
Assalamualaikum, Mr. Abdul
Waalaikumsalam
Aziz.
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Oke. Sebagaimana sedikit dijelaskan Dr. Mahali tadi tentang situasi terkini di negeri kami, di mana mungkin juga kabar ini sudah sampai di Thailand. Kira-kira 3 hari belakangan ini begitu kacau di beberapa kota di negeri kami terkait dengan demonstrasi. Pasti ini akibat lunturnya sifat sidik dan amanah sebagaimana yang jenengan jelaskan tadi, keamanahan pemimpin di mana rakyat sudah mulai luntur rasa percayanya sehingga harus terpaksa mengingatkan dengan cara-cara seperti itu. Nah, pertanyaannya sebelum ke pertanyaan, mohon maaf ini benar-benar situasi yang sedang memprihatinkan di negara kami. Kemudian pertanyaannya, ketidakmampuan seorang pemimpin menjalankan amanah sebagaimana yang selalu dikampanyekan dengan kampanye-kampanye manis menjelang election. Apakah itu hanya akan sekedar menjadi dosa besar politik, ataukah dosa itu akan berdampak pada kehidupannya di yaumil akhir nanti? Lalu di mana Islam atau Al-Quran memandang fenomena tersebut? Terima kasih. I think it's all. Thank for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam
Maybe
warahmatullahi
will be
wabarakatuh.
enough for 3 questions from Pak Roni, because one person but 3 questions. Okay, maybe the first one, especially for the third speaker, Bapak Dr. Haji Mahali. The question from Pak Roni is how does integration of the psychological theory able to influence leadership style? Are there special approach or maybe something like that? And the second one is especially for the second speaker, especially for me as a second speaker, how does the emphasis of NASAP approach for the candidates versus the modern theory, maybe like that. The third one is for Bapak Professor Dr. Haji Abdul Aziz from Pak Roni. About the leadership, this phenomena in Indonesia, Islam, Pak Roni, Islam, where's the Islam's version in this case? Okay, about the chaos or maybe something like that in recent condition in Indonesia. Okay, maybe the first one we goes to first question. In this case, Bapak Dr. Haji Mahali to answer the question from Pak Roni.
Okay, thank you Pak Sukarman and thank you Pak Asfaroni who asked me a question dealing with the psychology of leadership. I think there are two things that have to do by the leader in order to integrate the psychology into the leadership. First is that the leader should develop the self-awareness. Bagaimana pimpinan itu mengembangkan kesadaran diri. Ya, kesadaran diri bahwa dia adalah seorang pimpinan, that he is a leader that should have kinds of the style, have to have kinds of the way how to influence the staff. Kesadaran diri. Yang kedua adalah developing the emotional intelligence. Nah, kalau yang intelijen yang lain itu, I think ya penting, tetapi tidak sepenting ketika kita bicara tentang leadership. Lebih penting kepada emotional intelligence. Dua hal ini saya kira yang bisa dikembangkan, menggabungkan bagaimana seorang pimpinan itu memiliki pemahaman terhadap psikologi. Jika dengan demikian ketika dia memiliki kesadaran, self-awareness, kesadaran diri, dan mampu mengembangkan emotional intelligence, and then they can effectively understand about the psychological of the staff. Jadi kalau dia sendiri tidak paham, tidak memiliki emotional intelligence, bagaimana dia bisa memiliki pemahaman terhadap stafnya, terhadap karyawannya, gitu. Begitu pula dengan kesadaran diri. Kesadaran diri ini penting. Siapa sih sebenarnya? Nah, kesadaran diri itu akan bisa menjadi orang yang habis, ya, atau seorang yang underestimate. Ya. Habis itu artinya orang yang kemudian merasa sombong karena dia merasa memiliki kelebihan, dia merasa lebih dari segala-galanya. Itu habis. Yang kedua, dia juga tidak boleh underestimate. Nah, ketika dia sudah memiliki kesadaran diri terhadap dua hal itu, maka dia akan bisa menempatkan posisi posisi dia sebagai seorang pemimpin. Jadi underestimate nggak boleh, hubris atau overestimate juga tidak boleh. Nah, itu diperlukan yang namanya self awareness. Ya, jadi saya kira ada dua hal yang penting bagi seorang pimpinan untuk bisa memahami psikologi kepemimpinannya. Yang pertama adalah self awareness, bagaimana kesadaran diri. Apa yang menjadi kekurangannya, apa yang menjadi kelebihannya, itu dia sadari betul. Nah, yang kekurangannya dia harus bagaimana, tentang kelebihannya dia harus bagaimana menggunakannya di dalam mempengaruhi organisasi itu sehingga menjadi tadi yang katakan sense of us, menjadi semua merasa bahwa ini adalah tanggung jawab kita. Semua adalah milik kita, maka menjadi tanggung jawab kita untuk memperbaiki, untuk menjaga dan seterusnya. Nah, itu Pak Roni saya kira. So we have to think that it is very important for the leadership. First is to develop self-awareness, and the number two is to develop the emotional intelligence. I think that's all. Thank you, Pak Sukarman.
Okay, thank you, Pak Dr. Haji Mahali for the answer, especially for Pak Roni. Okay, maybe the second one is my chance. Kesempatan kami untuk menjawab, to give answer for Pak Roni questions. Okay, the question is how to emphasize, in this case, about nasab, especially for nasab, Pak Roni, ya?
Yes.
Okay, even my topic today is local wisdom management, human resource management, based on local wisdom, in Indonesia or in Javanese Islamic education institution, in madrasah especially. We found so many madrasah that maybe we found the approach, or maybe this philosophy, this local wisdom approach, nasab, nusab, nasib. But Pak Roni asked about the nasab. Okay, basically in this on my PowerPoint in material, I give the conclusion that every institution has their own characteristic. So this local wisdom approach is one of the alternative of the approach, because we have so many approach to in human resource management. This one is one of them, based on NASAP, NUSOP, and NASIP. Okay, I think in the modern context, NASAP, NUSOP, and NASIP is, I think can be compare, it's okay, collaboration is okay. I think in bahasa just like that. Bukan berarti yang kita menggunakan pendekatan nasab itu tidak bagus. Maybe plus and minus is one package. I think like that. Maybe just like that. Nasab, for example, pendekatan menggunakan nasab tidak selalu buruk kok. Pada dasarnya kan, ya meskipun fenomenanya terkesan sisi tadi yang kami sampaikan, fairness-nya, equality-nya mungkin banyak disorot di sini, gitu. Tapi tetap ada sisi positifnya. Misalnya apa, pendekatan menggunakan rekrutmen berdasarkan nasab. Ini dalam rangka apa? Dari satu kajian yang kami tampilkan tadi diantaranya adalah sense of belonging terhadap lembaga, terhadap institusi lebih besar dibandingkan mereka yang tidak ada relationship atau mungkin hubungan baik itu nasab ataupun relationship yang lain terhadap lembaga. Jadi mereka yang tidak ada keterikatan nasab ataupun relation terhadap lembaga, itu sense of belonging-nya, rasa memiliki terhadap lembaga itu berbeda dengan mereka yang merasa memiliki terhadap lembaga. Nah, mungkin itu salah satu nilai plus dari pendekatan rekrutmen, manajemen rekrutmen SDM ini di madrasah-madrasah yang mungkin kita jumpai di sekitar kita, especially Indonesia, but I don't know in Thailand, especially di Indonesia, local wisdom in Indonesia, bahwa fenomena nasab, nusub, dan nasib itu real, ada seperti itu. But about the effectiveness, tentang efektivitasnya, mungkin kita masih perlu banyak diskusikan. Karena tadi bukan berarti yang berbasis nasab ataupun nusub itu buruk, tidak. Jadi pada tadi setiap lembaga punya karakteristik masing-masing, kendala masing-masing, problem masing-masing. Jadi tidak bisa disamakan. Bukan berarti kalau yang menggunakan pendekatan modern yang terbaik itu bukan. Jadi ada yang mengatakan bahwa tidak ada pendekatan yang 100% perfect, itu nggak ada. Tapi kita adalah mencari pendekatan yang paling sesuai dengan kondisi lembaga kita masing-masing. Bukan berarti misalnya di tempatnya Pak Roni pendekatan berbasis nasab ini dianggap tidak cocok, belum tentu juga di tempat saya. Gitu. Karena mungkin masing-masing lembaga punya tujuan, misalnya mempertahankan lineage atau mempertahankan sebuah lembaga garis itu kalau misal di pondok itu pengurusnya ketika dari Pak Yainya turun ke Gusnya dan seterusnya, coba itu. Jadi mempertahankan line itu. Kalau misalnya di madrasah juga kurang lebih sama. Ketika lembaga itu dihandle oleh orang lain, jadi bisa jadi murni dari orang luar semuanya dengan beragam dan seterusnya. Tadi salah satu kendalanya adalah sense of belonging-nya mungkin juga berbeda. Terus kemudian dari sisi imbas dari rasa memilikinya, mereka murni pure profesional. Saya di sini bekerja, ya artinya datang, bekerja, pulang dan seterusnya. Kalau misalnya mereka mau ada kenteng voucher atau mungkin atau apa, mereka it's not my problem, it's not my business. Jadi itu urusan pengelola, itu urusan yayasan dan seterusnya gitu. Tapi ketika SDM ini adalah merasa memiliki karena mungkin zuriyah dan seterusnya, rasa kepedulian terhadap lembaga akan besar juga. Seperti itu. Oke, saya rasa seperti itu Pak Roni. Bukan berarti kalau apa namanya berbasis nasab mengabaikan unsur kompetens atau unsur apa namanya unsur-unsur yang lainnya, tidak. Eh, Tetap yang namanya rekrutmen sumber daya manusia kan kompetensi tetap dibutuhkan. Namun yang fenomena yang ada adalah nasab, nusub ini menjadi satu pertimbangan plus. Ketika misalnya ada 3 pelamar atau 2 pelamar, yang dua-duanya sama-sama memiliki kompetensi, yang satu kita tidak kenal sama sekali, satu kita punya apa namanya hubung historical education misalnya, oh ini dulu murid kita. Nah, itu saya yakin akan didahulukan sama-sama punya kompetensi bagus, saya yakin akan diprioritaskan mereka yang alumni kita daripada yang bukan alumni kita. Nah, saya yakin teman-teman juga merasakan itu. Nah, itu salah satu mungkin apa namanya ya, alternatif. Ya, makanya saya tidak mengklaim pendekatan nasab nusub ini yang terbaik, bukan. Tapi ini salah satu alternatif dari pendekatan dalam rekrutmen SDM yang berbasis local wisdom di sekitar kita, khususnya di Indonesia. Seperti itu, Pak Roni.
Okay, thank
Oke,
you.
enough ya.
I think it's enough. It's
Oke,
clear.
maybe the third question from Pak Roni goes to Bapak Dr. Bapak Profesor Mantia Abdul Aziz Kalupai. Monggo Bapak, silahkan Bapak, time is yours.
Inshallah, Alhamdulillah. I think inshallah I want to present by Melayu inshallah. Inshallah.
Oke, Bapak.
Okay. Alhamdulillah, terima kasih Pak yang tanya tadi.
Oke, Pak Roni.
Memang saya peristiwa mana-mana tempat yang berlaku baik di Indonesia, di Thailand, di mana saja di negeri atau negara Islam, dunia Islam sekarang tu. Jadi kita nampaklah kata bentuk pemerintahan itu dia tak sama, tapi walau bagaimanapun kita dapat apa tu, macam mana kita nak islah, itu yang penting. Macam mana kita nak islah. Saya ada sebuah buku, memang buku ni buku turas lah, buku lama lah. Buku lama tu, tapi dia bahasa Arab lah. Barangkali Pak Zubaidi kita boleh buku ini, iaitu namanya As-Siyasah
Boleh.
Asy-Syar'iyyah.
Boleh.
InsyaAllah. Pak Doktor, ini buku ni kalau kita kata ini sebagai senapan gajah lah. Kalau tembak gajah pakai yang ni lah. Sebab buku turas, buku asal, namanya As-Siyasah Asy-Syar'iyyah fi Islah Ar-Ra'i war-Ra'iyah. Itu memang jelas lah. Nah, kata politik Islam tu dalam memperbaiki pemimpin dan juga rakyat. Jadi dua-dua tu ada amanah lah. Tu saya sebut tadi kata ada amanah, dan buku ini pun dia bagi penekanan tentang amanah tu. Sebab dua-dua ni amanah yang saya kata tadi, sama ada pemimpin, sama ada rakyat, dua-dua amanah. Tapi apabila pemimpin menyeleweng daripada sebenar, wajib bagi rakyat itu untuk islah. Kalau kata rakyat pula menyeleweng, pemimpin atau kerajaan itu kena islah. Jadi yang kita nampak dua-dua pihak lah. Jadi pihak rakyat untuk mau islah pemimpin, pemimpin mau bagi makmur kepada rakyat. Jadi kalau kita tengok ayat yang saya baca tadi, innallaha ya'murukum an tu'addul amanat. Itu yang susah tu. Kata pemimpin kita, ketua negara, adakah boleh melaksanakan semua amanah-amanah itu? Amanah besar kan, kalau kata dalam keluarga, kita kata kita selaku suami, apa yang amanah kita terhadap isteri kita? Tu kalau bilang tu pun isteri minta tambah lagi tu. Isteri minta tambah nafkah ke apa, masa apa, tu pun kita tak boleh peratus-peratus untuk menunaikan hak isteri itu, kan? Itu contoh tu dalam keluarga. Apakah negara dia besar, ekonomi apa semua di hari ini yang problemnya ekonomi lah. Tapi kalau kita tanya sebelah pihak pemimpin, adakah pemimpin itu usaha untuk untuk memajukan, untuk meningkatkan ekonomi? Sebenar-benarnya itu soalan kepada pemimpin. Kalau tanya rakyat pula, people pula, adakah rakyat itu betul-betul untuk nak membantukan pemimpin? Sebab tu apabila kita tengok ayat yang kedua bawah tu, dia mari dengan kata ya ayyuhalladzina amanu atiullah wa atiur rasul wa ulil amri minkum. Jadi betul-betul tak kita patut pemerintah kita, fa in tanaza'tum farudduhu ila Allah war rasul. Dia balik klik kepada Allah dan Rasul, dzalika khairu wa ahsanu ta'wila. Jadi sekarang ni kita tengok baik tunjuk demonstrasi, baik apa baik, biasa dia campur dengan pak doktor duk bincang tadi dengan akhlak kita, perangai kita sebenarnya terhadap apa tu negara kita, terhadap pemimpin kita. Jadi saya tak mau katalah kalau kata dua-dua tu memang fa aslihu baina akhawaikum. Jadi surah apa tu? Surah Hujurat lah. Innamal mu'minuna ikhwah fa aslihu baina akhawaikum wattaqullah. Jadi dua-dua tu ada konsep wattaqullah, baru dia boleh senang. Kalau rakyat dia boleh sabar kalau ekonomi tak baik lagi. Kalaulah pemimpin duk usaha cari jalan, itu cara Islam lah saya kata tu. Kalau bukan cara Islam, dia corruption dia makan jalan ke, makan hutan ke, makan tu bukan Islam. Yang saya sebut ni Islam. Saya sebut Islam. Itu lebih kurang Pak yang tanya itu, saya tak panjangkan kalam. Saya rasa kalau ada seorang daripada FTU tanya, tak tahulah lagi masih ada lagi ke keluar lah. Boleh tanya satu soalan untuk kita kongsi bersama daripada Universiti Fatani. Abang Pikman tu dah keluar ke?
Okay.
Okay. Terima
Thank
kasih.
you, Bro
Cukup, Pak.
Madya Abdul
Dr.
Aziz. Maybe we open one question. Mungkin our audience from Thailand, from Fatani. Okay, please raise your hand, or maybe you can write down your question in the room chat. Or maybe enough from Fatani University. Maybe there is a student, or maybe someone else. Or maybe from Indonesia, we have more session, Q&A, maybe one question.
Ya. Okey, dari Universiti Fatani tidak ada?
Oh, no question.
Okay.
Okay,
Ya,
thank
ya.
you. Okay, maybe from Indonesia, one question maybe. One more question, maybe.
Cepat hilang.
Oh, no question.
Waktunya cukup, Pak Karman.
Okay. All right. I think our time is up. Now is 12:15, 17. Okay. Before we ended up our discussion today, maybe we have to take a picture together. Please on your camera. Okay. And we have 2 slides. Maybe we have twice captured. Okay, the first slide. Okay, please open up your camera, on your camera. Okay, we count down from 5 to 1. Okay, are you ready? Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ismail. Okay. Maybe one more, second slide. Okay, second slide. Okay, please on cam. Are you ready? Okay, second Second slide. Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Okay, I think enough. Ladies and gentlemen, finally we go to the end of the program. Let's close this agenda with Ummul Kitab Suratul Fatihah. Al-Fatihah. Okay, before we close officially this program, maybe from Pak Direktur, there is a closing statement or maybe something like that. Adakah pesan penutup dari Pak
Cukup
Direktur?
Pak, cukup
Oh,
Pak. Saya
cukup, baik.
sampaikan banyak terima kasih Pak Dr. Haji Abdul Aziz Kalupe, Pak Dr. Abdurrahman. Halo Pak Dr. Abdurrahman. Masya Allah Pak Dr. Abdurrahman. Baik, saya kembalikan Pak Kaprodi, monggo tutup.
Baik, terima kasih Bapak Direktur Pasca Sarjana Universitas Jepara. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, before we close our program today, thank you once again for Professor Madya Abdul Aziz Kalupai from Fatani University, Thailand. Maybe we can meet in other opportunities, maybe next month or maybe. Okay, Mr. Abdul Rahman from Fatani University, Pak Direktur Pasca Sarjana, Profesor Dr. Haji Zubaidi MBD from Universitas Jepara, Bapak Dr. Haji Mahali MBD from Universitas Jepara, and all of the audiences from Fatani University and also from Universitas Jepara. That's all for me. Thank you for attention. That's all. Akhirul kalam. Wallahul muwaffiq. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Wabarakatuh.
Jumpa lagi insyaallah, jumpa lagi insyaallah.
Ya,
Amin,
insyaallah,
amin.
insyaallah. Insyaallah jumpa. Insyaallah.
Ya.
Pak Doktor.
Lanjut tadi kita buat buku Pak Doktor.
Insyaallah, siap.
Ya, insyaallah.
Ya, Masya Allah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi
Warahmatullahi
wabarakatuh.
wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih teman-teman. Selamat melanjutkan aktivitas.
Yeah.